المجلة.
أهلا وسهلا فيكم بحلقة جديدة من المجلة، المجازين الأسبوعي اللي بيلقي الأضواء على النشاطات الاجتماعية الثقافية والفنية بالولايات المتحدة. نتصفح حلقة المجلة لهالأسبوع. فوتوويك دي سي وفوتوباما ويك معارض تصويرية. فن توثيق الكتب مع كيتي واغنر وستيب باي ستيب لتوثيق الكتب من داخل منازلكم. فوتوويك دي سي معرض تصويري وهو الأول من نوعه بالولايات المتحدة، يقام سنوياً بالعاصمة الأمريكية واشنطن دي سي. مسابقة بترتكز على مشاركة جميع عشاق فن التصوير من محترفين وهواة، حيث تعرض الصور الفائزة بمتاحف وصالات عرض العاصمة الأمريكية. بدايات وتطور هالحدث الفني السنوي بخبرنا عنه ثيو آدمستاين مؤسس فوتوويك دي سي.
The goal of FOTOWEEK DC is really to engage and involve everyone interested in photography. It was really for this to be an all-inclusive festival, so that it was for professional photographers, it was for amateurs, it was for people who loved photography, and we really felt that we wanted to include children, so that really anyone and everyone taking pictures or enjoying pictures could be involved. Its focus is to create for the festival itself a celebration of photography. Washington is a really important photographic town in a way because of all the photojournalists that come from all over the world to shoot here. We have wonderful museums, we have great galleries. The idea grew very quickly. Galleries started to hear about the idea, museums heard about the idea, art spaces heard about the idea, and all started to offer to become involved in this. We had a program that we called Night Gallery DC, and we were projecting on major museums, and in huge monumental scale these were projected throughout the city. We had over 150 venues, but as far as the number of people, 20,000 people plus. Our website had over 250,000 visits in 4 months, with almost 1 million page views. I mean, so just showed just the enormous interest in what we were presenting. This year we're going national, and we feel that very possibly by 2010 the awards program and contest could be international in itself to then accompany the international aspects of the festival.
مثل ما شفتوا حقق فوتوويك دي سي نجاح بارز، مما دفع ثيو آدمستاين لتنظيم مسابقة عالمية بعنوان فوتوباما ويك. هالمسابقة بتلقي الضوء على الحملة الانتخابية الرئاسية الأمريكية الماضية عبر عدد هائل من الصور اللي التقطتها عدسات مصورين محترفين وهواة واكبوا هالحدث التاريخي بانتخاب باراك أوباما أول رئيس أمريكي من أصل أفريقي. الصور تم عرضهم بأول متحف أخبار بالعالم بالنيوزيوم.
It occurred to me that it would just be wonderful as an extension of what FOTOWEEK did in 2008 to launch a contest open, in this case open to everyone anywhere in the world, that would be submitting images to capture the spirit of this inauguration, and not just exclusively the inauguration, but the campaign. We very quickly called up the museum, asked them if they were interested in perhaps becoming a co-sponsor with us, and they loved the idea.
The museum is very excited to have this new photo exhibit. We knew that the election and the inauguration of President Barack Obama was a first, a historic first for this country, but also for the world. So we had two categories, professional and amateur, and more than 1,500 people entered the contest, and 100 finalists were chosen. From those finalists, we also picked 8 winners overall, and from that, a best of show was selected. This was best of show here, and I like it because it doesn't show Barack Obama. It really shows the people around him, and it just, if you look at it, you can see the joy, and you can also feel the magnetism of Obama, and that's part of what made him a very special candidate and has the potential to make him a different kind of president. I like this one as well because it's one of those rare behind-the-scene looks at the life of a candidate. Everyone thinks about how much glamour there is and how you're on the stage all the time, but here you see Barack Obama. He's whistling as he waits behind stage in Las Vegas. There were 2 unusual winners, I thought. One was a collage. Someone took more than 100 images that they had taken throughout and put it into a collage. And I was surprised that the professional judges selected that one, but I think it was just so unique and there was so much thought and time that went into it. Another one was that we actually had a cell phone photo win as one of the finalists. And I think that's a first, certainly here at the museum in a photo competition. This is a wonderful example of the professional level of the amateur submissions. It's called Trading Places, and it was taken at the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. And here you have the youngster looking up at the portrait of Barack Obama, and you have the adult over here in profile, silhouette, looking at John McCain. And I just love the contrast in this picture. And I think it does embody that old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is another category. This was the inaugural category, and what makes this picture interesting, it was taken at the youth ball, and you can see all of the youth taking cell phone photographs of the couple, but you also in the background see a Secret Service agent lurking back here, and that embodies their new life. They're going to be on a public stage, they're going to have the adulation of young as well as old, but they're also going to have a lot of security with them for the next 4 years. This is another professional photographer, and he captured just the feeling out on the street, I think, because people were looking at the jumbotrons that day. They couldn't actually get close enough to see Barack Obama taking the oath of office, but it was just, there's enthusiasm, but there's also hope here, I think, for a change in the direction that our country is taking. Again, this is another amateur selection that embodies the professionalism. This is when Barack Obama and Michelle Obama were walking down Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm amazed that an amateur could get this close to get this good a shot, and he was as well, because he said there was an almost identical shot that appeared on the front page of the New York Times. And he said, hey, if it's good enough for the New York Times, it's good enough for the photo contest. This picture is one of the more artful submissions. This gentleman took about 10 pictures, and it was all a scene setter for the morning of the inauguration, when people came down the mall at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning so that they could get a place and be there in time for the noon swearing in of Barack Obama. And this shows people as there's just a little bit of light there. You can see the Capitol backlit here in the background, but they're warming themselves on the steam grates because it was absolutely freezing that day. Those are some of my favorites, just real people out on the streets, at the White House, at some of the campaign rallies that were held around the country. And the great thing about it is whether they were for Barack Obama or John McCain or Hillary Clinton or any of the candidates, it just shows that in this campaign there was a great participatory level in a democracy. And I think that's what was great, not just for America, but for all democratic societies.
بعد الفاصل فن توثيق الكتب مع كيتي واغنر والمونلايت باينري. خليكن معنا.
المجلة.
أهلا بكم من جديد ومنواصل تصفح حلقة المجلة لليوم. طريقة جديدة وفريدة بتتبعها كيتي واغنر بتوثيق الكتب والمذكرات من المكابس العتيقة إلى التقنيات الجديدة باستخدامها مواد خارجة عن المألوف، من لعبة الليجو إلى لوح الخشب والطبشور. من داخل منزلها بمدينة ألكسندريا بولاية فيرجينيا، ساعدتها شبكة الإنترنت للانتشار بجميع أنحاء العالم. بعملها بتراعي واغنر المحافظة على الطبيعة، وبتعتمد إعادة تدوير المواد المتبقية أو ما يعرف بالريسايكلينج، واستخدامها لأشكال أخرى مثل بطاقات المعايدات وألبومات لحفظ الصور.
Right out of college, I took a class at the Smithsonian about bookbinding, and since then I've just taken more and more classes, and I'm a bench-trained book conservator too, so it's a similar skill set, the conservation and the fine binding. I get my inspiration from the paper, especially something different, the kiwi seeds in this paper, the cork paper, anything a little bit different or fun, or I like combining things in different ways to make the colors pop, or alternative materials. I'm trying to do something with a traditional technique, but that's a little funky and fun. Well, the design takes some time. Certain books are definitely more work than others. These are traditionally bound, and there's a certain, the techniques you have to have down to do it in a sort of quick manner. Or a book like this is very labor-intensive because every section is hand-sewn, and it's using a very ancient technique called Coptic sewing. Basic tools. When you're gluing, these are bone folders. They're made out of bone, and these are used to rub the paper down and also crease them at the corner. That's a tool you use absolutely all the time. This awl is used for creating the holes. You punch the holes for the Coptic journal with the awl. This one is actually used to make sure that you have the even spacing, make sure that this hinge is the same as this one. The bookbinder's needles are for sewing, obviously, and the thread. There's a rainbow of thread choices for any of these bound journals. And these cartons are made from boxes that I purchase and then turn into notebooks. The Legos are obviously purchased. So, and I also go out of my way to use the paper that's produced in a means that's as green as possible, or using post-consumer waste, recycled paper, that kind of thing. And I also use all my scraps, and this is entirely made out of scraps. The excess paper from books I bound, the little extra board, extra cloth. To use every little bit of material is important to me, not to throw things away. This is actually an accordion album, so it folds out for pictures. Use it for people to write comments if they were at a party you give as a hostess, and you could incorporate both, pictures of the party and I just love, you could also just display it like this, which I think is really fun. So that's one of my favorite book forms right now. These albums are more traditional, so this is actually an address book. I use acid-free paper. The books I bind should last more than one lifetime, and I can incorporate nearly anything into a book format.
كيتي ما زالت تستخدم أول تقنية بتوثيق الكتب أو ما يعرف بالكوبتيك بايندينج، وهي التقنية اللي اتبعها أقباط مصر بالقرن الأول بعد الميلاد، بعد اكتشافهم أنه بمجرد طي الصفحات وخياطتهم تصبح الكتابة على الأوراق من الجهتين ممكنة. بتعلمنا كيتي على تقنية سهلة وسريعة لتوثيق الكتب ممكن تطبقوها من داخل منازلكم.
This is would be a full binding, which means it's just all one material used in the cover of the binding. And the first thing would be to choose the book cloth cover. So we chose the blue, and you know, just sort of estimate the general size of what you're going to need. We're going to go from here over to the board shear to cut the fabric. Gluing it out, and you work from the center outwards and kind of like and make sure the cloth doesn't move or you'll get. Take the first board, and these have been pre-cut. Spacing, just to make sure that my hinges are even. Take the corners off. Double check and make sure the text block fits the way you want it to. That looks good and even. These are pressing boards made out of birch wood. And once this is positioned exactly where you want it, take two more pieces of the wax paper, and I'm going to put it between two press boards and put it in one of my antique presses.
مشاهدينا، الوقت المخصص للبرنامج انتهى. لمعلومات أكثر عن المجلة، فريق العمل وإكسكلوزيف كونتنت، تابعونا على جروب المجلة على الفيسبوك. قبل ما أنهي الحلقة بقدم لكم لمحة عن نسخة المجلة القادمة. تاريخ الولايات المتحدة مع The National Museum of American History. كوكو سالا، مطعم لعشاق الشوكولا. بتأمل الحلقة تكون نالت إعجابكم. لملاحظاتكم واقتراحاتكم راسلونا على البريد الإلكتروني المجلة@الحرة.com. وبنهاية الحلقة بشكر فريق العمل وبالأخص بيير جاد. أنا بلاقيكم الأسبوع القادم وأكيد رح تكونوا على الموعد.
المجلة.